This game. This game. I honestly thought I would never play this game from start to finish. Jak and Daxter: The Lost Frontier was a game that was released by High Impact Games in 2009, 3 years after Daxter. This is Jak and Daxter's last game, and most people on the internet have bashed it for being bad, or so I thought. The Metascore on Metacritic averages around 71, and the user score averages around 6.6, which in my humble opinion is way too high. This game is bad. It's very bad. And it's even worse than I expected it to be. But why do I think that? I'm gonna explain why, but first I want to mention something real quick. When I booted up the game for the first time, I was treated to a language select. Since Norwegian was listed, I picked it, expecting it to only be stuff like Norwegian subtitles and the like, similar to how Ratchet & Clank Size Matters and other high impact games handle this stuff. However, as it turns out, this game was dubbed. And after the first cutscene, I immediately knew that it was bad. So as a sane and rational human being, I played for the entire game in Norwegian. I'll talk more about it in depth later. I just wanted to mention it so you know what kind of Ooga Booga Caveman text will be appearing in the subtitles. Anyway, I don't see any reason to wait it all out, so let the pain begin. The game starts with Jak, Daxter, and Kira flying through a storm, talking about how they need to find Eco in order to save the world or some stupid shit like that. And suddenly, pirates arrive and get on top of Jak's ship. Yeah, baby. Gotta remember, this was 2009. Well, honestly, no, fucking hell, it was even kinda late for the fucking pirate thing, wasn't it? Fucking Captain Man does the horny talk and then the firing starts. Jak begins to transform into Dark Jak, but because Eco is unstable, he can't. I don't get why Eco is unstable. I'm pretty sure it's not mentioned, so that's weird. Daxter shoots the fuel tank by accident, great work Dax, and a crash land on an island in an area called the Brink. Excuse me a bit, but why is there a drop into nothingness? Is the Jak world flat? Because it shouldn't be, because we saw the planet in Jak 3. We're given the explanation that the precursors didn't finish this part of the planet, and to that I say, what? I thought that the precursors made themselves to seem more important than they were, but still made the planet's defense system. So I have to be honest in something, but did it fucking create the whole fucking planet?
The more you think about it, the more it hurts the head.
Thank you, Daxter. Anyway, Jak can't transform into Dark Jak anymore. I don't really care. What about Light Jak? Light Jak is far better than Dark Jak. I'm serious. Light Jak, as far as I'm aware, is never mentioned. Anyway, after finding some fuel, the gang defends a massive flying ship from the pirates. There's a city within this ship called Europa, and its leader, Duke Skyhead, welcomes them in. Ooh, such a well-dressed individual. I hope that he is not an evil mastermind or anything. He also compliments Jak because the rumors of his abilities extend all the way out here. After Crash City, I should just accept the fact there are towns and cities and the like outside of Heaven City. Fucking Christ, like what's continuity anymore? After screwing around in there for a while, Daxter falls down and becomes this mistake after touching some Dark Eco. Oh my god. Oh, you're getting a fucking rise out of me, game. Gotta remember that Sonic Unleashed came out just about a year earlier, but we'll come back to that later. The gang gets a thing called an Eco Seeker, which can help them get some Eco to stop this apparent crisis. They give it to Jak so that he may open it, but he can't. Then suddenly the pirates steal the Eco Seeker and flees. Kira, with her massive big brain, jumps on the ship to give chase and immediately gets captured. Very cool. Jak and Daxter gives chase, but they're shot down. Jak and Daxter, now stuck on an island for the second time so far, meets an old guy who has amnesia. The old guy repairs the ship and begins chasing the pirates again. They do damage the ship and he is then on board for some fucking reason. Then meets the leader again, who's named Phoenix, and attacks him, leading to the Eco Seeker ending up on the island. Also, Kira's there. Just there. I mean, the game kind of has like a weird love triangle thing going on, but it's not even that, so they make a truce and retrieve the Eco Seeker. This time, the old guy from before comes along and he helps them open up the Eco Seeker. Because why not? After getting some supplies, they go to an abandoned research station that was used by the Aeropans to find some light Eco. There they find out that someone, I wonder who, did Dark Eco experiments. Jak figures this out due to a room looking very similar to the one room in the fortress. Even has a bottomless pit along with cells on the walls, which really makes me think. Were the Aeropans connected to Haven City in any way? It's never explained. Did the Aeropans get get the blueprints? Did they originally make it and share the info with Praxis? Did the aeroplanes work for Praxis?
The more you think about it, the more it hurts the head.
In a way, they get the thing and run away, but Daxter gets turned into a mistake again because he stops, looks at the machine when the rest of the crew is running away, emphasis on running away, and thinks that the computer is a candy dispenser. Speaking as a fat fuck with ADD, Daxter, you are a stupid, idiotic, brain-dead, inbred monkey. You deserve being choked by that fucking ball gag. The fucking segment doesn't even fucking matter. You think that Daxter would get a bit more pissed or insecure or anything at all since Jack doesn't believe him, but that would imply that the characters in this game were decently written. They get back to the pirate ship and it turns out that the Eco-Seeker needs repairs. Some parts of it are scattered, with one of them being located in some old aeroplane barracks. It's here that the old guy remembers that he's a Dark Eco-Sage, and that they made the facility. We also find out that Phoenix was a commander for the Airplane Air Forces and was put in charge of doing the Dark Eco experimentation, but he refused and ran away with the old guy, who was a scientist on the project, and put him on an island.
Golly gosh, Batman, so heroic.
Also, the aeroplanes are infected with Dark Eco or some shit. I would care if we spent more time there, but that would require good pacing, and we can't have that here. In a way, they all swear to destroy Skyhead and then ship combat. After that, they continue doing stuff, including traveling to the center of the planet. I know it's just a vortex, but come on, we're flying in the fucking live stream. There's even ghosts here. What I'm trying to say is Final Fantasy VII Crest of the Lost Frontier confirmed. It's not gonna look pretty, but it's pretty much guaranteed. So, you just gotta accept it, man. After fighting against the European ships, the crew go to the abandoned research rig because the repaired Eco-Seeker says so. Let's go there and do stuff. They find an Eco-Core, but this guy named Cloud betrays the crew for Skyhead. I guess Cloud followed the man with the cloud. It killed me. Kira does stuff and kills Cloud, RIP Mr. Cleaver lookalike, and the crew run away to fight another day. Suddenly, someone sends a message to Phoenix, which says something about a warp brigade in the barracks.
So it's linked to the airplane ship. Fucking hell, I'm getting tired.
They go through, but not before Dax turns into a werehog again. After that, they're in a rope band. Haha, Dax turned into stonkers. Haha, I guess I have to deal with two monsters, and I guess it's just part of the business, and fuck this game with a 20-meter pole! They make their way to Skyhead, and they find out that this guy was the guy who sent the message. Whoop-de-frickin-do, but he dies. Whoop-de-frickin-zad. Skyhead turns into a dark giant power up from Jack 2, and he is defeated. And then he runs away, and then we engage him in aerial combat. Oh wait, I mean we start a chase sequence disguised as a boss battle. Fucking hell, game, I thought I fucked up big time by not upgrading my ship good enough, but then you gotta do this shit. Anyway, real boss battle time. Jack does stuff, but it isn't all that effective. Phoenix wants out of his messy excuse of a plot and kills sacrifices himself for the greater good. Yeah, that was what I wanted. Yes, that's what I meant. Then Skyhead also dies. Yay! After all of this fucking mess, they reactivate the Eco-Core, which makes Eco run through all the events and all of that. I have several questions. If this supposed eco shortage started because there were no eco flowing through the vents, why did storms and all that appear? Well, it wasn't that a problem in Jack 1. It was we that activated the channels back then, did we not?
The more you think about it, the more it hurts the head.
We found out that the guy's name is Tim. Cool. Also, Kira can channel eco now. Didn't she already do that throughout the game? In relation to the power-up stuff?
The more you think about it, the more it hurts the head.
It also turns out that there are more eco lines somewhere and stuff, and the crew starts to search for them. Woo! Jack and Kira kiss and gets interrupted by Daxter. Oh, so funny. Come on, guys, you can't reference continuity now after ignoring it 15,000 times. Then the game ends, not with a conclusive ending, but we will have more adventures that you won't see. Ha ha ha, so funny. I hate this story with a burning passion. Do I need to say anything more? Like, the characters are badly written. Jack has a much more nice guy quipster attitude, and I don't fucking like that. Daxter is Daxter, but with half as many brain cells. Kira is just there, and I can barely remember all the characters' personalities. Characters go brain dead to service the story, like with the candy fiasco, and it contradicts almost everything that came before. They say that the world has an edge, which would imply that the world is flat, which it clearly isn't, looking at Jack 3. Even if this edge exists on the wrong planet, where is it? I remind you, we've seen the entire planet in Jack 3, so we would have seen a gap in the Earth, wouldn't we? Wouldn't we? Skyhead has Dark Eco experimentation machines like Praxis, but we don't get to know anything about that. They apparently were in a war, but that's never elaborated on. Was it a war with the Metalheads? Emma City? My neighbor? Tell me, game! Apparently the game was originally worked on by Naughty Dog, but then they made Jak X and later on were busy with Uncharted, so most likely these things would have been elaborated on in the final version, but since I really can't find anything about this original version other than a couple of unfinished cutscenes, I'm gonna bitch. I checked out early. The story didn't grip me in any way. I had to read a goddamn plot synopsis on a wiki to remember this shit. Like seriously, I need to apologize to Daxter. The game, not the character. I didn't really like the story, but I could at the very least think of reasons that, in my eyes, would have improved it, and it was at the very least somewhat entertaining when looking at it as a standalone title. You can't really do that here. It tries to be complicated, but it doesn't explain stuff that really should be important, like the war stuff, the Dark Eco stuff, etc, etc. Also, why did it bring in the Dark Eco experimentation stuff? There is one thing that could have made it like a little bit interesting. I wouldn't really improve the game that much, but it would be a little improvement. And that's if they made Skyhead into some dark reflection of Jak or something along those lines. But since we don't really get to know anything about him other than
he's bad guy. Oh, he's bad guy.
And we barely get to spend any time with him, it makes me not care about him at all. At the very least, Daxter's story made me laugh, but this thing makes me feel two different emotions, sometimes at the same time. Anger and boredom. Anyway, enough about that. Story stinky. I just need to vent a little bit. Let's see if the gameplay can save it in any shape or form. Spoiler alert, nope. You take control as Jak in this game, and his basic moveset is pretty much the same as the PS2 games. He can jump, punch, spin, and shoot. However, Jak's overall feel is very janky. He moves very stiffly, and actions like swinging on poles and stuff like that makes Jak sit through the entire animation without the ability to break out. So there's a lesser sense of fluidity when moving around. Due to the lack of enough buttons, Jak's role is taken out. However, as a compensation, the airspin has been made much more prevalent, being specifically mentioned as something needed to make jumps instead of just being something that Jak has. The high jump is also gone. However, with the way the game is designed, it really doesn't matter. The one thing that I'm kinda bummed out by is the lesser impact of the more advanced stuff like uppercut and dive attack into over attacks. The uppercut was kinda noticeable, but sadly it lacks impact, so it doesn't really feel as satisfying to use like in the PS2 days. I tried to do the dive attack into high jump thing, but I didn't notice anything. According to some info on the Jak and Daxter fandom page, it does exist, so the fact that I didn't notice myself doing it says all. You get 4 gun mods, like in Jak 2, but instead of putting them on the morph gun, you instead put on this long ass beating stick, which also doubles as a melee option. You switch gun mods by using the up button on the D-pad. Yep. Switching weapons when in combat feels like a chore, and since I'm used to using every button on the D-pad to switch guns, a lot of the time I've switched or used eco powers. We'll get back to that later. You also shoot with the triangle button. And that's not all. There is pretty much no auto-aim like in Jak 2 and Jak 3. And if there were, I sure as shit didn't feel any of it, and you explain what's going on here. The guns are mostly the same as in Jak 2 and Jak 3. You got the blaster, which you get first this time around, the scar gun, the Vulcan barrel, and the peacemaker. Nope! Instead of devastating ball of energy, you get a grenade launcher. I'd give points for innovation, but it ain't exactly the first time we've seen something like this in the Jak series. You can get upgrades to the weapon mods, and these are more like the upgrades you get by doing missions for crew in Jak 2 and the upgrades you can buy with the precursor orbs in Jak 3. The interesting part about these is that the upgrades are lying in chests, sometimes in off the main path. I wouldn't be surprised if I missed some of them, and that's kinda cool, since they're in small parts incentivizes exploration. You can also get armor from these chests, and those behave like a Jak 3, adding extra health points to Jak, but they're butt ugly. You would have thought that the armor pieces would resemble pirate outfits, you know, given the setting of the game, but it ends up looking just like a fucking $5 bootleg of the Master Driver outfit from Xenoblade 2.
Anyway, time to rate the guns.
The scar gun is just like before, maybe with a bit more range, hard to say, so it's pretty good I'd say. The blaster is terrible. I'm serious. The good old air spin and shoot combo doesn't use as many bullets as it did back in my day, and even the ground punch and shoot combo doesn't use as many bullets. Combined with the fact that the auto aim is severely nerfed, I think that this is the worst gun. And then you have the Vulcan Arrow, or Fury, or whatever the fuck it's called in this game. It's kind of hard to know that when you're playing a game in Norwegian, right? Stinky. Even if the audio makes it kind of bad, it's more fun to use when combining it with eco powers and just firing the bullets right into the enemy when you're close enough for the enemy to sue you for invading their safe space. The Lobber, which is the grenade launcher, is pretty cool. Deals a bit of damage without having a too small or too big ammo capacity. I don't really know why its ammo is apparently made of green eco, but sure, why not? By the way, remember the part about eco being so unstable that Jack is no longer able to transform into Dark Jack, or more importantly, Light Jack? You still get eco powers somehow. Don't ask me how, I'm not V-Mask.
Fish people.
You get eco powers from statues like how you got most of the Light Jack abilities in Jack 3. The eco types are not dark or light though. They're the usual colors that were more prevalent in the first game, being blue, red, yellow and green. You can switch eco powers by using the right and left buttons on the D-pad and also the select button for some reason, and you use the powers by pushing down on the D-pad. Using a power uses a bit of a bar that's constantly regenerating, so that's cool. New, I guess. The powers include being able to make constructs pop out of the ground, being able to teleport and switch places with precursor statues, being able to throw an explosive ball to destroy obstacles, being able to use a shield, being able to gain altitude, and being able to freeze time. Okay, yeah. High impact? What was the reason of removing Dark and Light Jack? Most of his powers are carbon copies of Dark and Light Jack abilities. I mean, the shield is at the very least used for traversing hazardous obstacles like Dark Eco, and you need to shoot the ball in order to make it explode, so that's at the very least different. But honestly, every power feels fucking weird to use. Since auto aim is shit, the best way to use the red eco ball is to shoot it with the scatter gun, and since you don't take any damage from the explosion, it just ends up looking weird. You can also spam the hell out of it, which also looks fucking weird and wait a fucking minute. Hasn't red eco been used for shorter ranges, like the extra attack power in 1 and the scatter gun? Why is it long range all of a sudden? I know I complain about how this ain't like how it used to be. Just make him to yellow eco power. Am I the only one that thinks about this shit? The green eco shield is a neat idea, but when you use it, Jack bathes his feet in morning cum and slides along the ground. There's also a section of the game where Jack someone uses it on Daxter, I get it, funny hamster ball, funny, but knock into an edge and you start flying into the sunset. You lose control over this thing so goddamn easily. Using it feels like a fucking chore. The green eco construct is a power I really like, because not only is it needed for platforming, but it's also used in combat. The only bad thing that I have to say about it is that the platforms it creates are maybe a bit too small, and since there's a time limit for them, the core controls are janky, and sometimes it's hard to know exactly where you are in relation to the platform due to the drop shadow being easy to miss. You'll die at some point or another, trust me. Another power I really like is the teleporter. Since you always switch places with the statue, most of the time you need to be aware what statue you teleport with and when you teleport. There's quite a few switch puzzles, and figuring out what you need to do in those situations felt really rewarding. It honestly gave me a similar feel to what it felt like when completing some of the harder Clank time rewind puzzles in Ratchet & Clank A Crack in Time. However, I gotta stay negative, so let's talk about the Yellow Eco rocket jump. It fucking blows. I get that it can't be too good or else you'd cheese the game, but it's so useless! You need a yellow eco man to jump high, and you can chain jump when pressing X again when inside a randomly floating yellow eco gas ball. Just one video later and we're already talking about randomly floating gas balls. One thing about the rocket jump is that you can only gain altitude, so gliding around doesn't feel right. You can use the power without a vent, but you barely get any height, and you don't go nearly as far as when jumping normally and spinning. You also need to charge it before using it when not near a vent, and that's understandable, but why would I if there isn't a reason to use it when not near a vent? It should have worked as a third jump or some sort of thruster pack or something like that. It would have incentivized me to use it. Finally, we have the blue eco reflexes. It's just like the light eco power from 3, but instead of doing a cool clap, he instead gives Goku his energy. It's at the very least fun to use in combat, but Jack doesn't have the floaty effect like Light Jack does. So all in all, it's a worse executed version of an already existing power. After listening to me talk about the powers, did you notice the ones that I thought were pretty cool? It was the ones that are not ripping off aspects of previous powers. Holy hell, I can't believe I just said that. There are aspects of this game that I found to be very fun. So pretty much the ecosystem is a bit mixed. One thing that I will not understand is why we have different bars and powers of the same eco type. Let me explain. When you use an eco power, it begins to regain eco a bit slowly. Each power has its own bar, as it were. It's not like using the red eco ball thing uses any green eco, so it makes sense why there's different bars of each kind of eco. However, eco powers of the same color don't use the same bar, and I honestly don't understand why. I can't recall a single point in the game where you need to use both the shield and the construct, or the slowdown and teleport. It's most likely just an oversight, but I get annoyed by these things, and if you have a problem with that, then you are more valid than I am. One thing I should mention is whatever's going on with Kira. Due to her following in her father's footsteps of becoming an eco sage, she can control eco to an extent. Doesn't explain why everyone is so confused in the final scene, but what's important is that Kira can turn dark eco into upgrades for Jack. Dark eco is pretty much a currency, kinda like bolts in Ratchet & Clank, and you can invest in either green, blue, red or yellow upgrades. I did like them to an extent, but then I found out that you can upgrade stuff like the shield with blue and yellow eco, and my brain went stoop. The upgrades are fine, but I barely unlocked half of them, so that's cool. Anyway, I'm already about 4,000 words into the script, so let's move on to the aerial combat. It sucks. You can fly around and do neat stuff like shoot and roll, but the plane feels so sluggish. The one thing that's both interesting and infuriating is that you have quite a few planes. You see, when doing stuff like killing flying dudes, you get scrap. Scrap is pretty much bolts from Ratchet & Clank. Another currency, I love it. I love it. You can use them to buy plane upgrades like better weapons, health, etc. There's just one teeny tiny thing that makes me hate this system. You have to buy the upgrades when you're on the Phantom Blade, and you're not always able to enter the fucking thing. If you don't use your scrap whenever you can, you'll be locked out of upgrading your ship due to being in a mission. And if you don't have your plane pimped out, you'll die. Another thing is that if you don't think about which plane to use when going outside for a mission, like the fucking Vortex mission in Sector 0, which leads directly into the behemoth fight, you'll be stuck with whatever you got. There is no go to hangar button or switch ship button, and since the game auto-saves for you when you're already in the ship, the only way to switch ships is if you decide to make another save file. The jet was my go-to plane, but since I sometimes forgot that and decided to jump into the Hellcat, I was using a plane that had barely been upgraded. And since the damage output is so low, I was screaming, I was kicking, I took breaks, I contemplated my life choices, and if I lived in a big city, the police would kick down my door and search for a warthog that must have been out the end of my smelly willy. The behemoth fight was particularly shit because of this fucking attack. The behemoth sends out this force field thing, and I counted around 3 times where I was sent into the stone spire thing in the back, and I was stuck there until I died. I even was sent into the ship itself. God damn! I guess that while it looks grand in scope on the outside, the inside is just hollow. Kinda like the game itself. The final chase was also a part of the game that I despised. Because not only do you have this fucking arm that has too many spots to shoot, so I repeat, will hit you, but it drags on for so long it doesn't give any implications of it being a chase until Kira says, "Hey, wait a minute, the kid's going backwards." So I focused on shooting and nothing else. Didn't focus on dodging, at the very least until I was fed up and looked up a long play on YouTube. After finding out what I needed to do, I considered to just stop playing the game. After that, I was curious about what other people had to say about the game, and I looked in the comments of that long play, and people praised it, saying that it was one of the best games on the PSP. Wow. The PSP library seems to be pretty shit then. I repeat, I can't understand why people would enjoy this game as a whole. Sure, it has a couple of things going for it, but at the end of the day, the negatives outweigh the positives by a long shot. And you know what? We're not even fucking done. Yeah, the plane stuff is pretty shit, but do you know what's even worse? Not in terms of gameplay, but idea? This fucking thing. Why did they do this? Why? The Dark Daxter sections are a complete pace breaker. It doesn't control a complete task, but why? Dark Daxter gets 3 sections in the game, and only 2 of them make sense. In the first one, Daxter gets splashed by some Dark Eco. Don't know why he changed again. At this point, he should have fucking killed him, but he's fine. He's this mistake now. Cool. The second time, he gets splashed again. Okay, cool. The third time, he transforms when he's afraid. Wait, what? The game implies that Daxter can transform when his emotions are strong enough. I mean, if that's the case, what's the point of the second Dark Daxter segment? It's already bad enough that the reasoning, you know, oh my god, Candy, is fucking shit. But then it turns out that it doesn't matter to the story or anything, and fuck! Oh, I don't think I've been so pissed at a video game in my entire life. Fuck, I got sidetracked. The gameplay is pretty poopy. Daxter can hit the ground, pick up enemies, become a tornado, which uses Dark Eco, and shoot Dark Eco balls, which doesn't use Dark Eco. I mean, the stages themselves are somewhat designed well, but really? Spin like a tornado? I mean, I think I get it. I guess it's either a Crash reference or most likely a Tasmanian Devil Looney Tunes reference, but still, why? I haven't played Sonic Unleashed, but since that game came out a year before, and since colorful anthropomorphic animals turning into spiky and buff monkey man isn't exactly a common thing, I'm gonna assume that this was a last-minute inclusion. Think about it, other than the subtle foreshadowing about Skyhill being a dickhead, what does it add in terms of both story and gameplay? Nothing! That's absolutely nothing! Take Dark Daxter out of the game and nothing of value would have been lost. Anyway, I've screamed in pain long enough. What else can I talk about? Music goes in one ear and out another, so we can skip that part. The game has a couple of good segments, but those segments are weighed down by everything else. The story sucks, both as a sequel and on its own. The core gameplay is incredibly janky, and every extra mechanic is a chore to sit through. I know I screamed throughout the majority of the video, but I don't care. I've had more fun playing Sonic 06. No joke. When some people like Super Burbans talked about it years ago, I thought it was bad, but it couldn't have been that bad. Oh, how wrong I was. I can't recall a single game that has made me this frustrated, but I'm willing to think that part of it was due to me playing the game in Norwegian. Originally, I was supposed to talk about the Norwegian dub in a bit more detail, but honestly, I think that it's not needed. I am gonna show a couple of examples though, so bye.
Like, favorite, and subscribe. Stinky.
Monstre! Slå dem ut med et slag. Trykk på slå-knappen.
Må hjelpe det luftskipet, Jack.
Spenn dere fast.
Mutanter, økostrømmen har forvandlet alt der nede.
Den som gjorde dette bør knuses.
Kom igjen, ut med det. Gi meg det stopp.
Rusken, det var du som sendte oss meldinger.
Ikke tving meg til å drepe deg, min hertug. Kan noen stanse sensitivhugeprogrammet? All pelsen min står rett ut. Innkommende ild!
Jeg er en veldig viktig fartvann.
Han var jo enorm! Han var